Welcome to the Land and Blast podcast. This is the Meet Our Team series. I'm here with Chris Martin. I'm Sam Terrell, and today we're introducing
Alex Larson. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks, guys.
No, thanks for joining us. Yeah.
Almost like he's been interviewed or something before.
I know, it's like you've done this before.
Well, a time or two. I didn't tell you guys about my illustrious film career.
Many days spent in showbiz.
Yeah, I don't tell all my secrets, man.
Players cards close to the vest, baby.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, you want to start us off today?
I don't know. What are we doing here? What are we trying to accomplish?
I would love to learn more about you, Alex. You and I have been able to hang out a little bit. I know you work here in Medford.
Chris and I see enough of each other.
Yeah, you guys see each other all the time. But today, I would love just to hear, how you met Chris. How maybe you.
That's going to be a fun.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to hear
at my side of it.
Yeah. I mean, how did you meet this gentleman? Get a part of the team. How did that whole process start?
Yeah, I mean, it all came together just kind of. I feel haphazardly a bit. It was
organic.
Yeah, definitely organic is a better word for that. So Chris and I never met until we both went to Rogue Community College in Grants Pass. I believe it was basketball class or an elective of some sort. I think we had.
It was basketball. I don't remember if it was.
I didn't know you guys knew each other from that point. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he remembered me, and I vaguely remembered a 6'6" guy.
When we grew up across the valley, so Chris and IV and myself in North Valley, so that's north of Grants Pass, and he's west of Grants Pass. So we didn't really intermingle as youngsters per se.
I was 1 year different, so we were kind of missing each other in some of those.
A lot of my connections were across for the Hidden Valley High School. We ended up competing. I knew a lot of those guys a lot better, but not so much on the IV connections. But anyway, so we played basketball together, RCC, and then I believe either at that time or shortly after that time, you got licensed.
I would have had my license at that point.
Okay, yeah. So ironically enough, we met each other. Didn't form too deep of a friendship, but I knew him, respected who he was.
Other. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. But our similarities were that, his mother was in real estate, mine was, my family has a real estate background, so we both kind of found our way into the real estate business, albeit I think in a little different forms. And ironically enough, we never interacted professionally, like did a deal together or showed a property or anything like that, but, knew of him. He was with a group called the Venuti Group, and well respected. And I was at a smaller, I'll call it, for lack of a better term, boutique brokerage out in the outskirts of Grants Pass. And so obviously, with that being said, I was dealing in a lot of rural real estate, so that's where I wanted to be. And then we ended up competing on a property. Well, I thought I was competing. He wasn't competing. So I've always been interested in the type of properties that, we deal with today, and, had sold a few decent properties, but I went out and stepped out and tried to gain a listing on a piece of live water, some large acreage, met the owner, did our whole listing presentation, and Chris and Wes came out, same property. They got the listing. I tried to show it a couple times. We ended up talking. That was probably not the only time we talked. I think I made a call to try to show the property. Anyway, long story short, I think mid 2020, I had a property that I had been trying to sell, a ranch out in O'Brien, and Chris at that point had kind of made a name for himself in the space, and so I just figured, I didn't have a water rights examiner to call or this or that or the other thing, and so I just figured, I'm just going to pick up the phone and call Chris, ask a few questions, and that's really where the business relationship part of it started. It's very organic. I think by the end of that phone call, he's like, "Hey, you want to have lunch?" Or like, "You ever think about venturing out or anything?" Just very not digging deep, just kind of, "Where are you at? What are you doing?"
Yeah, gentle feeler.
Yeah, exactly. So we grabbed some lunch, I think at least once, if not once or twice, and then just started collaborating on some things. And then end of 2020, I joined the team. I showed up to a house in the middle of nowhere and met you and Evan.
Right,
we had a fantastic weekend hunting birds, and I don't know if we didn't do any fishing. We did the Star Wars thing.
Yeah, we did the Star Wars clay shooting. That was fun.
Yeah, so and then
Ty Valley.
Yeah, Ty Valley.
Fast forward to today, so I started out kind of in your shoes a little bit more independent, trying to make my mark. And then in the last, what are we at, 8 months, 9 months now, we've, collaborated. So I've kind of come in on the inside with Chris and Ashley and become part of that listing team. So like I said, I mean, haphazard isn't exactly the right word, but it fit.
Yeah, there was a progression.
There might have been a little more intentional thought process when, so I still remember, I'd bailed for the weekend to go do some business planning stuff up at Lake of the Woods. I just ran a cabin, shut my phone off, and I had just had a bunch of things I was working through, like systems wise.
Yeah.
And that was early. It was somewhat early in COVID, and I was trying to revamp a few different things.
All the other cabins were probably empty.
It was a ghost town. It was a complete ghost town. It was nice. The problem was the restaurant was shut down. So the last evening I was there, I was literally eating like the last crackers I had in my truck. I'm like, anyway. When I was sitting there getting ready to kind of wrap up, and I get a phone call, and it was probably the first phone call I'd answered the whole weekend because I was just coming back on the grid from like finishing up.
You're also like, who is this cat?
Well, no, I had your number saved in my phone. I recognized it, Alex Blackbird Realty or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, and I had a couple interactions, with him, and I remembered. I was like, oh, he was solid in conversation, but we never did a deal together. I answered the call, and he started asking questions about that property and some water rights and different things, and I could tell that he'd done his homework. Like he was genuinely. He had most of the right answers already. He was just kind of confirming things.
So you walk before you fly. Sometimes you walk.
You had done your homework,
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. And I think I asked a question like, what are you doing to build your business?
Yeah, it was like I said, it was just a little prod.
Yeah, and what you didn't know is that that's just a question I often ask people that I'm like, they could be a cultural fit for our group. What are you doing to build your business? So that was a lost leader kind of thing I would say to different people, because at that point I knew Wes was going to be or had basically retired and different things were going on, and I was just like, okay, well we need to fill out what we're doing here in the valley. So I was just kind of in the back of my mind just always kind of looking, and I was like, well, this guy figured out water rights and he was working in the right space, kind of culture fit. So I'm like, okay, what are you doing to build your business? And forgive me, but I vaguely remember the conversation going something like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'll tell you what. This is how I remember it, at least. I was like, well, let's get together. And then I think after we had that lunch or breakfast or whatever it was, didn't we meet at like 5:30 in the morning?
Yeah, I think that was your other test, Mr. Wake Up at the crack of dawn.
Yeah, 4:30 club.
I figured if this guy would get up at 5:30 in the morning to have a phone call with me once a month or whatever it was.
Yeah, I think it was like once a week. It was like a Wednesday at 5:30.
Yep.
It was Wednesday. He's like,
I've been there.
Yeah, it's like if he'll give me a half hour's
process.
time, half each week, I was like, yeah. What do I have to lose? Yeah. I'll learn something, pick something up. It doesn't have to necessarily go the whole 100 yards, but yeah.
Yeah, and it was good. I mean, I think we had some conversations about like, well, what's a CRM? What are you doing for your sphere? Different things like that. And I think there were things that you weren't unfamiliar with, but you're like, oh man, I really have been pursuing that stuff.
I mean, I was definitely, I knew what I was doing, like in a transaction. I knew about real estate. I knew my job, I think is the term.
Yeah.
I knew my job.
You're very
well.
transactionally savvy. Very transactionally
but
savvy.
then when it came to CRMs, like I mean, obviously I have an iPhone. I'm in the 21st century. I mean, I had a schedule and certain things and, like that.
There's a Google Calendar
but
somewhere.
as far as like with an intention of like, what am I doing with this content or contact information? And so I didn't know necessarily what this next step was. I actually think at that time I was the owner of the brokerage. Yep. And I was actually trying to figure out like what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure that I really wanted to like manage somebody, bring somebody on. I knew that I didn't have like the tools or the bait to bring on someone that was my own level or higher. That I didn't need to train. They were going to need tools or products that someone could supply better. Like what was I giving them to bring them on board? So it was an opportune time to have that kind of conversation. And so, fortunately, Mr. Systems and think about things 150 times,
Mr. SOP,
I was able to just kind of come in and carbon copy. I was able to kind of come in alongside and be like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. I see where I'm failing at that. Here's the things that I'm doing well that I can plug into the system. And it's, definitely allowed me to be more efficient and learn some tools and honestly expand on what I did know. It's kind of like you don't know what you don't know.
Of course, yeah.
That was kind of my thing, I feel like.
Well, and I feel like the coaching or training part of period was like that long. Cause you just saw what we were doing, grabbed it and did it. That part was cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a very like coachable person. Like I'm not one that like I don't want to continually have to have you tell me how to do something, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not trying to just be a squeaky wheel that you're like, oh, I got it. Like,
but
so it was grabbing onto what that is and then like making it my own. Like I say carbon copy because I mean a lot of it is fairly rudimentary, but
just doing it's the problem.
Right, building it out.
You
Yeah.
kind of have to figure out your own way of doing it. So I mean, it was taking what they were doing and then seeing what worked for me, what I wanted to do differently. So yeah, it was a fun transition. And then I came from that into 2021 was my best year I've ever had.
Yeah.
So it was a great move for me. I have enjoyed every step of the way.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
And so now, kind of because you guys have like a trifecta going on a little bit in
That's a better term.
Yeah, like because there's kind of like Chris, you, and then Ashley. You guys work kind of in a triangular fashion, right? How does that interface? How does that look like?
The original vision, was to have a team lead and then a couple of partners in the mix where, this project we'd work on with this partner, this one with this partner. And I mean, it worked okay, but I ended up just getting stretched super thin. And it was always this kind of like, everyone was super humble and kind about it, but it was always like well, should this project be Alex or Ashley? And there was always this kind of conflict surrounding all of that. And
I think it went pretty well, but you could feel that. You could, like, Chris would call me and say, hey, we're going to work on this project. It almost felt like he had to tell me, like, hey, I know it's up in your neck of the woods, but like Ashley and I spoke to this person, this relationship, this thing, so it just made sense that as we started to blend together to go and do everything.
But the other thing that was happening that I don't know if you were aware, I was, obviously Ashley and I were both sitting in the background, going, well, yeah, we want to work with Alex because he has the character and the culture and everything. Like, it's going to be a fit.
Yeah.
Like, we're not, I think culture is everything. And, Ashley is extremely outgoing and flamboyant and all this other, stuff. Yeah. She's just a ball of excitement all the time. And Alex brought a steadiness to the mix. I'm like, yeah, that would be great to have a little counteraction of this ball of energy. Yeah. Although in his own right.
Hey, yeah, from time to time,
in his own right, he's pretty outgoing.
I enjoy the term someone just coined was gentle bulldozer.
Oh, there you go.
But sometimes, Ashley, turns on the ignition and it's like, oh, yeah, for sure. 100%. Got to amp it up a little bit. So it's like it's all evens out.
But it was a nice mix because everybody had different skill sets. So we sat down last year and we're like, okay, here's all our processes of what we do in the listing business. Mm-hmm. Based on everyone's strengths, this is where I think things should be. Let's give this a try next year and see what happens. And like, let's just all work on this together. Like, and it's, for me, it's been a relief. Like, it took a little bit to kind of get going, but right now, in this moment, like, I feel a huge relief in
the first little bit was a greasing of the skids.
Oh, we had a lot of like, what? You do that way?
Do it differently. Yeah.
Some tweaking.
Hey, I got the job completely done. He's like, well, you thought you did.
Take that back. Let me provide some notes.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah.
Just absolutely, but that's how you figure it out and, figure out what everybody does well. And, I think that we picked out the roles pretty well. I mean, it's worked. We haven't changed it so much that the roles are different, but it's a matter of just ironing it out.
Sure.
So it's been kind of nice. And so it's allowed the front end to remain sort of like we were doing with kind of team partners. Mm-hmm. Chris being the obviously the team namesake and having that first relationship, but then there's a lot of joint relationships. Like perhaps he and I know somebody, or I'm bringing someone in, so I bring Chris on that appointment, or Chris and Ashley deal with this initial reaction. But then once that's established, I'm letting my client know that, hey, then there's Ashley who you're going to be communicating with, or, bringing them into the fold. Likewise with Ashley, hey, the next step is you're going to meet Alex and he's going to, get with Danny and take photos and set up the marketing product. So it's been nice to kind of meld those things together. I think that handoff is probably was the biggest thing that we had, where the client wasn't sure, who they were supposed to be talking to at that point in time. They knew, Chris obviously being the lead, they could pick up the phone and talk to him. But the whole point is to offload some of these tasks. So that was probably the greasing the skids where we had to iron
We
it
basically
out.
tried to build a system that was, if only 2 people were there, there was no issue.
Sure.
So if I was gone hunting or whatever, like they could handle things.
Yeah.
If Ashley was gone, like I slide in and do what she normally does. Or if Alex is gone, I slide in and do what he normally does. And it's, in theory, like it's working. It works well on paper, but it's working well in real life as well,
this
which
week
is really
case
nice.
in point. We've got Ashley out of the office this week, and we've been able to kind of meld and take over some.
It really has been. I don't want to say it, but it's like tomorrow will probably blow up. But this week's been pretty decent.
We've been blessed. I think it's There's not been many rumblings. Not to say we've been putting out a ton of fires effectively, but fortunately this we've been blessed. I think with
absolutely.
very few fires, but
Effective coverage this
absolutely.
week.
yeah, for sure.
Just kind of wrap up like how things came to fruition with it. It was culture and friendship that makes things really work. Like we joke all the time, like, wow, we just went and did something fun for the first time in like 3 months. We should actually do this once in a while.
Yeah.
But it's true. I mean, I like being around Alex, and the whole team. Like, there's a cultural fit.
Oh, for sure. And I think we all have a good time, or we make a good time out of what others can make mundane. Like work is a good time. I mean, there's times where it's grind and it's stressful. Just like anything else. It is
Leave
work.
it to Ashley to make something fun that's not fun.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it's everybody getting to enjoy everybody's lens on the project. And so being able to take work, do it with people you enjoy being around, it makes it a very enjoyable experience.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And so outside,
I just need more excuses to come fishing.
I was going to say, yeah. So that was kind of what I was
I've
leading.
been
into.
trying to find a listing in Bend to be like, hey, I'm coming up, Sam. I know this guy.
Anytime. And that's what I was going to ask. So like, obviously, there's a lot of team focus down here. You guys are very busy, and you're working through a bunch of different stuff on the business front. What does Alex do in the small amounts of free time that you have?
Small amount, yeah. No, this year's definitely been smaller amounts, which I'm blessed to say that that's the case. There's plenty of other scenarios where there'd be a lot more time to kill. I'm sure right now we're thinking about the different things that are going off on the phones eventually, and there's work to do. But my free time this summer, I've been thanks to having the trifecta going on, I've been able to get out. I think 3 different weekends now. I have another one, not this coming weekend, but
every other weekend, you're blocked out in the calendar to go camping
every other weekend.
Somewhere.
We're popping out and going camping. I was at Lake of the Woods. We did Diamond Lake for a few days. I'm going to the coast next weekend. So that's I think my biggest thing with this whole trifecta. Although I told my wife I need to do fewer trips that maybe a little bit longer next year.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, I think so too. So
too much work to get ready.
That's what we enjoy doing is getting out and camping. Our last trip was solo, but also it's fun to grab a couple friends and we're gonna all go off grid and hang out and go fishing. And
let's put off grid in perspective.
How off grid are you going?
I mean, it's glamping.
It's
glamping.
A gorgeous RV, and they all have games and carpet and covered awnings
stellar.
and barbecue.
Yeah, no, it's totally glamping.
Totally off grid. Yeah.
It's not. I mean, when I say off grid, I mean the cell phone doesn't work, which is my favorite thing.
Yeah, out of cell range. Yeah.
If the cell phone doesn't work, that's off. That's perfect.
Yeah, generators are okay. Yeah.
The generator. It might have a 30 amp hookup everywhere we go, but we have a good
will be
time.
engaged. Yeah.
Yeah, the site is still beautiful. I got to sit out on Lake of the Woods a couple weeks ago.
It's so pretty.
And I actually joked with Chris and Ashley. I texted him. I took a picture. I was like, "Hey, I have service here. We can rent a cabin, and if some fire erupts, we can all run back to town and do an appointment or something. We need to do a team camping trip."
Heck yeah.
But yeah, camping, fishing, hunting, kind of being outside. We're cooped up in the office way too much anyway, as it is. So those are kind of the things that I'm doing. Other things that I enjoy is we just bought a new home, or new to us home this year. And so
congratulations on that again. I know
thank you. Yeah,
that had fuse on it a little bit. Yeah,
it had some fuse. It gave me some perspective into how our clients are. When each of our dates we look at, and try to understand. I now have much more. It had been a while since
Yeah.
I'd been in a purchase. Gave me some empathy, for the different things that we're trying to meet. And, when I look at it transaction, I'm like, we're right on schedule. We're going to hit these dates. And, inspections went well. Whereas I know I was free. I was like, everything's going great, but is it going to go bad in a minute?
Yeah.
Everything's going great. It needs to keep going great.
Yeah, that realtor brain clicking on.
Yeah, exactly. So, I love to do home projects. So, I grew up a landlord's kid, so we were always fixing a broken pipe or, rewiring an outlet, painting something, fixing things. So I've developed that kind of, I'm certainly no, professional contractor, but handy. Yeah. Kind of a jack of a lot of trades,
It's called equipment therapy.
That's easy.
therapy, I
So
like that, yeah.
for my brother owns an excavation company, and for a short period of time, I was working with him actually while I was in real estate too. So, a lot of masonry and operating equipment. So I've always got, a skid steer and excavator at the house, and you can throw in the AirPods and put down, and again, throw on the AC.
Yeah.
Hey, you don't want to hit
Super
like
Gucci.
a wasp's nest and have that stuff behind you. That's a real thing. Go to Kubota, ask him why you need the shield. Well, you could.
There's some ground
on a
hornets.
hornet's nest. Yeah. In fact, just a couple weekends ago, we were clearing a spot at the house, and we got away from it. My wife was the victim. She got hit pretty bad.
Oh.
Yeah, with I guess a black wasp. I had never heard of it,
Bald-faced
but
hornet or a black wasp?
black wasp, I guess. Yeah, no, it's been fun. So yeah, lots of
Interesting.
Benadryl
Put
and
that on the personal experience list.
yeah, why not? So we caused the problem and got out of it pretty quickly. But so being outside, working with my hands, that kind of stuff is some of my favorite stuff to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all of our work is something that we see. Or we check off a box, and the relationships that we build, those types of things, and our marketing is our physical product. But I love going home, and I've got some walls that I knocked down at the time being, and then seeing that progress and making some. It's nice to be able to see some change.
Absolutely.
Measurable differences is a lot of fun.
No, it's fabulous. And we were talking with Shannon in an earlier episode, and all of us are, I would say, fairly driven individuals. And one of the questions we were asking her was, where does the drive come from? And what, in turn, what drives you to push forward into the business, push forward into your family life? Where do you draw from in that pursuit?
Mine's pretty simple. It's my wife and kids. That's for sure. That's where I get my energy and get my drive. The other part, we talked about a cultural mesh, but the other thing was in similar seasons. So us working together, we all have 2 kids, somewhat similar ages, and so we're all in the same season of life. And I know at the end of the day, that's what gets us all up to go. Something that Chris and I talked about when I was kind of coming on the team on, hey, what do you want to get out of this? And as anybody in real estate knows, you can be busy for the sake of being busy, or you can be busy in accomplishing tasks and getting done. And so I was busy, but I wasn't getting out of the business what I was putting into it. And so one of my big things is if I'm going to be away from my wife and kids and the activities they're doing, or just spending time with them for 40, 50 hours a week or more, that needs to be profitable. It needs to make sense. It needs to be for a purpose. And so they're my biggest drive, being able to leave the house and know that I have a job to do. If I'm going to be away from them, it better be for a reason.
Sure.
So that kind of keeps that fire lit for me.
Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
It's becoming,
we're all no slackers.
No,
Yeah.
no.
What's your thing?
I think that part of it is the family side, and that's new. Erica and I have been together for a long time, but I was a solo operator forever. But there was always something where
Outside of work, just in life.
Oh, in life, yeah. I don't know. I've always wanted. I don't know. I've always wanted to just keep going. There's something where I've never had the feeling that I'm doing enough. There's always a sense of there's something else you could be doing, and I don't know where that comes from. It's just an internal thing. And my dad was like that. It was if you weren't doing one thing and you had free time, it's you better be doing something else to progress you. And, my dad was in show business, so sometimes watching a movie, we're critiquing the movie and the directorial stuff. So it was fun. But at the end of the day, it was get up in the morning, do your job,
Accomplish a
show
task.
up. Yeah, accomplish what you're setting out to do. And I don't, it's just one of those things that I've just kind of had. I've always enjoyed leadership positions. I've liked working with other people. I'm very relationship driven. and I feed off of other people and their energy. And if I gel with people, it's fun for me to be around them.
Yep.
If they're elevating themselves, I'm going, oh wow, they're doing this. Well, that means I can also accomplish that. And it's just that ladder stair step effect. And it, like, I don't know, like, it gets me
A little bit of a competitive nature.
Yeah, I think it's
In a
friendly.
good way.
Yeah, friendly competition, or at least it's a drive to be like, hey, I respect what that person's doing. I respect what they're working on, and I want to emulate that in my own life.
Yeah.
I want to take the best parts of that and try to deploy them in my own way, but to the best of my ability.
Yeah, I think I can relate to that a lot, like in our relationship business-wise. I saw what Chris was doing. I knew that inside what he was doing, I was like, I know I can do that, and I see him doing it, so it needs to push me to the next level, but I need to learn something. Like, there's something there's a cog that's missing. And so being able to push each other to that next level is huge.
From my perspective, it's all camaraderie.
Yeah, rising tides.
There is such exactly.
Yeah.
Rising tides, there's such a power that comes from doing life together with other people who are going in the same direction. Like, that's the thing, like, with all of you guys within the team, with Shannon, with Ashley, with, all of us, with Evan, everybody does have a direction they want to go naturally. But when we put everybody together into a group, like, it just multiplies the impact, it multiplies the growth, and we learn and we grow and we do. I mean, think about it. If you're running in a race or you're doing something really hard physically or you're trying to get to the top of the mountain, you do so much better with 2 or 3 other people who are also trying to do the same thing. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Some more individual, some more of a team kind of, situation, but it's rising tides.
Yeah, oh, without a doubt. It's not necessarily that you're, like you said, friendly competition. It's not that anyone's trying to beat anybody, but it's just like, oh, okay.
No, I'm the one who struggles with the competitive thing. I'm the problem in that department.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't see it's pushing. It's unleashing potential.
Yes,
is really what it is.
It's a great way to put it.
I think that's a better explanation. Because by no means do I want to, see myself as getting to the level and looking down, or it's pulling everybody with you.
Yeah. Catalyzing
Marking
other
the
people's
path.
progress. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you're a team guy. Like, you like that camaraderie. Like, that's my observation. You're better with than on your own.
It's a new thing. So I've played team sports. It was always a thing there, and so maybe it translated. And I was trying to fight an uphill battle by being a more solo person. Because I've always played basketball. In my life, I have a couple less injuries because I avoided football.
Yeah.
That'll wreck you.
So I think that, without subconsciously transferred to the business. So, coming in every day, and having a goal to set and knowing that, the next thing I can't pass the baton. Ashley can't do her part or Chris can't do his until I finish my piece. Or when they pass me the baton, okay, they gave this to me. Like, I need to get it to the next person.
Yeah.
So that's been a big drive for me.
No, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to hear, like, how all of us, have been on our own in some ways. We've had to launch our own careers in many aspects, but then for whatever reason, through Chris and then this whole environment that we've created here, whether it's illuminating things that we didn't know, or if it's just adding that other perspective, it seems like everything has overlapped in a way that is just stacking us higher and higher. And I don't know, it's exciting to be a part of. And
Likewise.
You and I have gotten to go on some adventures ourselves as well, even though we live far away.
Yeah.
Like, you came up and went fishing in Bend. Like, we get to share experiences together.
Well, I think, like, for me, like, I grew up in my dad didn't take me hunting. My parents didn't. We lived outside the city limits, but I didn't live wasn't brought up like a country lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then I moved up to Oregon in 2001. And one of my very best friends, he and his dad were, lifelong hunters. So that was kind of like my first exposure. It was even, we played some football together. So I did 1 year. I knew when to quit. I did 1 year. It was also 8th grade, so like no one's hitting that hard. So
I didn't get hurt till high school.
I had a good buddy that he and his dad introduced me to hunting. An uncle that introduced me to some fishing, and then as I had kids, I want them to know that stuff. So like our trip was born purely out of like I want to know better how to fly fish. I was like Sam's all about fly fishing. Corbin, load up. We're gonna pop up to Bend and we're gonna fly fish. Like I had a fly rod. I've done a little bit, but I like by no means, a fly fisherman. So I was like, we're just gonna go figure this out. Just action. Let's go do it.
And Corbin picked the fly that ended up catching the one
He
fish
did.
that
It was like we had these 4 like reasonable flies that Sam and I were like, yeah, this is the one that's the guy it's catching in the hatchery, like this is it. And he's like, no, we're gonna go with this big, flamboyant. It had all the tentacles on it. He's like, yeah, no, we're gonna do that. And we're like, whatever,
absolutely.
throw it on
It's
there.
your day, dude.
Boom. Yeah, I mean with
Smacked
it.
a huge freaking trout. It was like, holy awesome.
Yeah. And,
awesome.
and yeah, I was so glad that came together. I mean, he was a trooper. The Fall River is not warm.
It is cold. That river is spring fed and chilly. So
yeah,
no,
there was like snow on the banks. And
Yeah,
stuff.
no, we were. Yeah, it was
cold.
It was a day, but no, he was awesome. Got
Yeah,
out
I
there
mean,
and
to
did it
talk
all.
about getting into it, taking, let's see, at the time that was, so he would have been 7 then. So I mean, taking a 7-year-old into the river at the time, I got him a super nice set of waders, like thermal. Like I was like, okay, if he's gonna go, like I'm gonna make it not miserable. And then I just wasn't sure like what I want to do, and so I grabbed, kind of a cheapo pair, get it ready, get in the water. I think Sam and I were like walking out in the river, and I was like, these have a hole in them.
Instantaneous.
My socks and my boots are wet. Cool.
It's like 52-degree
So
water.
it was so cold, so cold.
Wow.
But yeah, he was a trooper. And then we finally, we put him on a fish, and like being able to set out and do that was a super cool thing for that trip.
That was like the steepest learning curve he could ever be on, and it like turned out to be a huge success.
Yeah.
It was
I
awesome.
think the coolest
That's
part
what
was
Wes did
standing
to
there.
me.
Oh, really?
In the drift boat, in the wind. Here, learn how to cast.
Cast it to the wind.
Oh, yeah, in the wind is almost impossible. But yeah, I mean that river, we were standing there, and you didn't have to cast or anything. You just put the leader out there, and you could just watch in front
It's
of
like an
you.
aquarium.
You just watch the
It's the clearest water
yeah,
ever.
the clearest water. I mean, you just got to see. Oh,
That's
I want that one. Let me just drift it. Yep. Yeah, that was fun. It was a good trip. We need to do some more of that.
Yeah, I know. I want you to come back up.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
And so, and kind of moving back to the business side of things, it seems like you guys have a pretty gelled situation going on. For you in your business, even as a part of the team, but for you as Alex moving forward, are there any things that you're striving towards or looking towards goal-wise, or things that you're planning on building on?
Always, right? I mean, either you grow or you die.
Sure, yeah.
Kind of mentality. So I mean, I think that's what we look at as a team. Moving forward, we've removed a little bit of the, I don't want to say individuality, but like we said, I'm not solo. Yeah. So everything's a team effort. Right now I think it's a matter of getting myself back in touch with my sphere of people and educating them on where I'm at, what I'm doing, and how I can help them. They've been really welcoming to my transition. I had a lot of people that even just the other day I got to go introduce Shannon to an old client of mine that's becoming a buyer again, and so that's been kind of fun to reintroduce my previous sphere from they would have known me as a single broker at Blackbird Real Estate. So to kind of show off what I'm doing now and share with my sphere what I can do for them, how I've grown myself and how I've amplified my ability in a team sense. That's my big next goal, is to bring more of that back into the team. Yeah. Yeah.
And then on the personal side, it sounded like, taking longer vacations next time.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is I created that problem. So I was like, and I think actually I set that plan before we did, this kind of team transition. I was like, it's going to be a lot easier if we have like weekend getaways type thing. But now, I mean, the way we're able to work and function, it's almost like too many trips. Enjoy them, but it's, trips, I think, that are just
probably not too late to reconfigure one or two of those.
One or two, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, it's glamping's tough. When you get those things set, it's tough to change it around. You got to hunt some of these spots we got. I mean, you have to hunt like a year in advance. You got to be up at 4:30 in the morning and on the computer and fighting. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's like Black Friday camping.
No, it's true. Like there's all the campsites disappeared.
Harris Beach. Good luck. Good luck during peak camping season.
Yeah,
it's tough. That's tough, but I think we got in there for next year.
Good deal.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
There was not a single foot track of anybody where I just came back from with Ben. We were the first people in there the whole year.
Yeah, that's
We didn't have to make reservations. The fish were biting.
the fish. Yeah.
Those photos.
No,
look
I don't.
incredible, yeah.
Those are the kind of trips that I think we should do some joint ventures in the future.
Yeah,
I'm all about it, especially if the phone don't work.
exactly.
It's, like I said, that's my
Phone
thing.
did not
service.
work.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, you were texting me on GPS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the fish were awesome.
Satellite phone. Yeah.
Here's your pin. Come up here.
Yeah. No, he was super excited. He's like, I put on like 30 fish already. I was like, go on vacation. Don't text anybody else. Don't tell anybody you can text. Like, yeah. Don't give this
No
number to
inside
anybody.
information. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, it sends a GPS location like
Yeah.
right to where I was. I thought about that later. I'm like, I'm gonna turn that off. That's just
I pinned it on my Onyx.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, he
know where
went
to
up
go
this
next
ridge
time.
line. Oh, that was a great photo. I'm going there next week. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but so for business goals and aspirations, it's, just taking what I've learned and bringing it back to my sphere of people and, providing for those that have trusted me in the past and
Yeah.
letting them know like, hey, here's what I can continue to do and do it better.
And you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you did have kind of a varied background of people that you interacted with. I know you played sports, you had the excavation and the construction stuff, but you also like kind of something that we both have similar backgrounds, and you did some gunsmithing at one point and worked it
Loosely,
but still,
loosely.
yeah. Do you mind sharing about that?
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. So like when I got licensed, as any broker can attest, you don't get your license and make a sale the next day.
Right.
So I had a couple jobs that I kept while I was getting on my feet, we'll say. One was at UPS. I was a dispatcher and was telling my guys what to put in their trucks and where they were going, and that was interesting. Learned something cool there.
Yeah.
And then I had an opportunity. A buddy of mine got into a CNC shop that was making AR-15s and AR-10s and all sorts of accessories for them. And so he's like, hey, they've got a job, and you're welcome to come out. It was paying more than the job that I had. I was like, okay, perfect. So I, gave my notice, went into the finishing room, and just ogled at all of the thousands upon thousands of just lowers, uppers. So my job was in the finishing room, taking everything that had come out of the CNC, perfecting any blemishes that were on it, putting it in the sandblaster, and getting it prepped to go out to Cerakote. And I was interested in guns. Had a couple firearms, but learned so much there. As you find out, you work in a specific world,
Yeah.
you find a load of professionals that are in that world. And so I had guys that, oh yeah, I've built 600 of these things, and if you need this kind of trigger, you got to do it, and remember to adjust it right here, and then slip it in there just so, and so I picked up a lot of tips and tricks, and there was even a guy that had, he had expanded his knowledge on AK-47s, and so I learned everything about them, all the different models, and the thickness of the lower that you want to get, and all this kind of stuff. But it was a super cool experience. I went to work every day, but it was just kind of a fun thing,
Yeah.
and picked up as much as possible. I never really got on a CNC machine, so I didn't really pick up operating that machine. I was mostly just kind of hands-on with the materials, but
It's a fun culture.
yeah, no, it was
Fun culture to be a part of.
it was really cool, and so I met a great array of people, and kind of learned a unique skill. So like I said, gunsmithing would be loose. I did gather enough knowledge to build my own rifle.
Yeah.
So I was able to get. I ordered some pieces online, and was able to get some really cool stuff that I watched. Come from bar stock to go into a CNC machine. They made my quad rail. I got to take it. I got to sandblast it and send it off to Cerakote and get it back and build the whole thing. So that was really cool. So
It's like the Build-A-Bear of AR-15s.
yeah, no, for sure it was.
That's
I
awesome.
get to watch the whole thing. So that was really cool. And then pick a bunch of brains along the way. There was a guy that was really into long distance shooting and custom barrels, and so he told me what to get. I did not at that time have the budget for a super nice proof barrel, But I learned quite a few things and got the right barrel and the twist, and for the right grain I wanted to shoot and stuff. So I mean, I picked up enough to be dangerous. Still have, I think, a ways to go. I don't reload my own ammo, so that's something that I'd be interested in learning more about. I know Chris dabbles in that a little bit. Mike does quite a bit of that.
No. Let's get this straight. I have friends who
That
dabble in that. That's my extent of the reloading.
Well, then maybe that's so what we need to
Basically, we
get
just need
together
to
on.
get Sam down here,
See him down here.
and we both
share
have a
some
pile full of
reloading knowledge.
cash.
We got that extra
Shows up.
space. We got that
Before he
extra space
shows
in the
up, we need to
office.
have him order what we
Everything we
need,
need.
Yeah.
and then we can set up.
Yeah, perfect.
And then we'll have to invite Sam down because that's the only way we'll make enough time.
Actually sit.
Every time we go, shoot, we'll make just enough to go shooting that
Exactly.
day. Yeah. No, so that was a fun thing. I've kind of left that by the wayside. I mean, I am a firearm enthusiast. I've got plenty of cool stuff in the safe, but only built one or two of them.
It's more than most. To be
I
honest.
mean, yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
There's I never got into like the 80%er club with a screwdriver, all that.
We don't
kinda
talk about
fancy
any of
stuff.
that on this television show.
As I said, never.
Yeah,
got it.
never. Not your thing.
Yeah, don't know even know what they are. But yeah, so it was a fun experience. Yours, though, I mean, being able to take and actually gunsmithing, create. I mean, ours are put a machine, right? I mean, let's get real about the AR world. Is put it in there, hit a
Press a
button. You got to check the machine every now and again, like make sure the tools are sharp. But it's like then you take and you put together almost like you said, a Build-A-Bear, like a Lego set. And at the end of the day, it shoots and pretty well.
Yeah, accurately.
It's like,
yeah.
But yours, I mean, bolt guns and different things like that.
Yeah, everything in between, like from
you can
timing
go
with-
from just shaving off a little bit here, and then it's like, oh, now it shoots right.
Exactly. Yeah, no, and I mean it's same kind of thing. It's like once you look underneath the hood and you have somebody that really knows what they're doing, or you're around enough people that have had enough experiences to just impart little bits of that knowledge, it's really helpful. Like we're friends with this gentleman named Mark Sue. He's a state champion pistol shooter, really good guy. He's now in the lending world up in Central Oregon.
Oh, okay.
Which so coincident.
Very cool. Yeah,
career
right.
shift. But like it's simple stuff. Like his gun wasn't shooting. Like it wasn't feeding. And I was like, when's the last time you cleaned it? And he was like, oh, I might want to get a new barrel. I was like, no. When's the last time you cleaned it? He was like, oh, I've never cleaned it. I was like, bro, come over. So we just cleaned his gun, and then it was running flawlessly. And it's like just taking
Doesn't all the gunk fly out when the
yeah,
shell
exactly.
goes
Yeah,
out?
yeah. Once it
Well,
runs,
it wasn't a Glock. Come on.
It wasn't a Glock. Yeah, no, it's a high performance piece of machinery. But it's like, yeah, it's like it. Like you said, but just shaving a little bit off of something and making it smoother for another person. Honestly, that's most of my gunsmithing now is just troubleshooting with people.
Right, yeah.
Having a coffee, having a beer, whatever, and
You
then it's
like
like,
come out like I have my emery cloth and
Exactly.
my spectacles. Oh,
yeah, I have a tote now that just has all my gun
Yeah.
repair supplies. It's like, just come on over, put it on the table.
perfect. Yeah, no, that's really cool.
And then for you, like with the outdoor pursuits, saying that you're kind of looking at fishing, you've done some hunting. What would be like your dream excursion, or what would you love to go do in the outdoors?
What's a few of your bucket list on?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been able to do quite a bit with the fishing, fortunately. I've got a good buddy who, if I just say fly, he's like, fly fishing? Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so that's been pretty easy. He's got the drift boat, and so we can just go out and do whenever. I've also had the opportunity to take a few guided trips on the Rogue River, and that's a load of fun. I mean,
That's a big deal. Like people fly in from all over their place to go.
oh
do this
yeah,
stuff.
I mean, hearing the stories from the guide, and then to be a couple of local dudes,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, most of my clientele is like flying in. I have to pick them up at the airport, or that kind of crazy stuff. And so, I think for me, that was 3 months ago. It was actually myself and the broker that represented the seller of the house that I purchased.
Yeah.
We worked really well together during the transaction. And he was like, you know what, let's go fishing. So we popped out and took a fishing trip, and it was, again, cell phones don't work in the Hellgate Canyon, and it was kind of nice. You just get out, and we floated by some cool properties that we may or may not have sold or been on before. It's always kind of fun. It's like, hey, check out that one. Yep,
Yeah.
been over there before. But as you go in, you reel in your fish, or you get online, there's just so many cool experiences. I think just sitting back, and even when you're not catching, right? I mean, it's called fishing, not catching.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you're not catching, it's just like sitting back and you're just in this gorgeous bit of nature. You hear the wind blowing through. There's just not a lot of society's noises, whistling in your ear, and it's nice to just get out and relax. I mean, so more fishing adventures. Like I said, my hunting experience I've done last couple years, I have been bad about getting out. I've got out a day or two here, local kind of adventureman hunting. I'd like to, one of my walk before you run things would be to take a more in-depth hunting trip. And so Chris is, and I've been talking about what that might look like and taking some time off to do a,
2024 goals.
A whole,
put it on the calendar.
a whole week of
Put
that.
on
So,
now.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Put it on the calendar now so it can't book out. So yeah, taking what I would call a true hunting trip and adding more fishing.
But we're not going to break the news to Ashley until like the week before.
Okay.
There you go.
Like my name will all of a sudden pop up as gone. Alex's will been on it for a long time. It's like, why is your week so empty, Chris? We're going to keep it that way.
It's going to stay like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that would be something that I want to do. And I've got maybe you and I should sit down with bolt gun stuff. But I've got the old hand-me-down 30-06. It fires pretty well. But I think I'd also like to venture into some new tools.
Absolutely.
New tools. I know Chris will help me spend a few dollars.
Oh yeah, he's been building some cool stuff too. Yeah. We can give you plenty of projects.
Yeah.
We can spend your money quickly.
Yeah,
We can find stuff for you to buy.
Well, as long as it's coming in, we can
Yeah. We'll have some
get some
fun.
new tools. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of my aspiration is to delve further into that world. Like I said, I didn't have a background in that, so I'd like to do it enough to where I can build up my own experiences, and then your kids always kind of want to do what you're doing.
Which is awesome.
Although they're tired of showing houses, I'll tell you that. They're like, look, are we going to that stupid house again? Can we not go show houses today? And but yeah, I mean, they want to emulate you and look up to you. So if I can start to do more of the things that I'd like them to do, that so it gets back to your kids drive you. So I want to learn and give to them what I didn't have. Not that I wanted for much. I had a pretty spoiled childhood, spoiled in the right way. I feel like I was always pretty grateful or didn't take anything for granted, but it didn't do without. So it's less of giving your kids what you didn't have, but teaching them what you didn't know.
Sure.
I think for me, giving them the experience that looking back would that would have been kind of cool. So
that's beautiful.
try to
actually.
change something for them.
Well, I'll tell you what, as much as I give you a hard time about the glamping, it's maybe somewhat out of jealousy because some of the adventures I take are not glamping.
And I think it can be balanced. I was envious of some of the photos that you shared with me about you, and I mean, those are more important than the.
But you're doing it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like you're doing it with the kids, and the priority is your wife and them, and that's just. There's nothing better.
Well, I think for me, the team, like I said, we're all in the same season. I think a huge thing is that we had a meeting on Friday, and I was trying to get out, and work is important too. So we took a little delay on the camping trip to make sure we had everything buttoned up. But after I think out minute 45, Chris was looking at me. He's like, "Get out of here."
Yeah.
He's like, "You were supposed to be out of here, so go." And so I think it's nice to just. I want Chris to go do what he needs to do. Ashley and Chris want me to go do, it's nice to have that like-minded priorities. We know work is important. We know we have a job to do, but we also know that there's other important things out there.
Finding that balance
Yeah.
and encouraging it for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
When possible.
Yeah. It's easy to just put on the blinders and sit in your corner and
Oh
just...
man, yeah. Go blind staring at the screen.
Yeah. I mean, it would...
We all do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It would not be a rarity that I've been staring at my screen and Chris is like, "Hey, we're gonna go do something else for a minute. Change it up." So,
Like go outside and shoot a podcast.
yeah, let's do it.
Well, Alex, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Yeah.
And taking us through you and some of your experiences.
I look forward to seeing this unfold. We're gonna have a lot of fun telling stories.
Yeah. This is great.
This is a stretching experience for some of us, but this is going to be awesome.
Yeah. I've been adjusting to getting on camera.
But no one can tell that you're having to adjust because you look natural.
You
at
look
it.
very relaxed.
Well,
You're looking good, brother. Looking good.
Yeah, my boots can't be on camera. I'm quaking and shaking.
Take it in your boots.
But no, thank you guys for having me out, and it's been fun.
What were we calling this series again?
The Meet Our Team.
Meet Our Team series. That's right.
The Meet Our Team series, episode 2.
So we'll have a couple more victims coming.
Yeah, there'll be some more coming down the pipeline.
Sweet. Got Alex,
Maybe make that a surprise calendar thing too.
Yeah.
For Ashley, for sure. So anyway, well, Alex, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
And
Until next time.
Until next time, this is the Land and Blast podcast. Thank you for watching and listening.